Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 13 Pro has been my main phone for the past week. I've used it for an entire week, and it's a pretty great phone. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to use the 13 Pro Max or this phone, but I wanted to give you my overall impression of it and help you decide if you wanted to pick one up for yourself. Now, there are 3 reasons to pick up a 13 Pro over maybe a 12 Pro of last year, and many more if you're coming from an older phone. Those 3 reasons are the display, the cameras, and also the battery. Other than that, there's not a whole lot else going for it over the 12 Pro, but those are some pretty big leaps. Now, the first thing is the display. The display is great. It's super bright in sunlight. It's easy to see, and this year Apple has actually bumped it up to 1000 nits for regular brightness. So if you're outside in a sunny environment, it seems to be pretty bright, and I really don't have any issues seeing it whatsoever. It also will go up to 1200 nits if you're viewing HDR content, and it just looks great overall. It has good viewing angles, no issues whatsoever. And this time around, it does not seem to dim the display if it gets too hot. So the phone doesn't seem to get as warm. Maybe that's to do with the new A15 Bionic and some of its power saving ability, and also just the speed of processing. Even in 90-degree Fahrenheit temperatures, I did not have the phone dim the display, even if it was really hot outside. So that's something that's an improvement over last year's phone, at least in my experience so far. Now, maybe that will happen in 100-degree temperatures, but so far it's been pretty good. Now, the next thing is PWM. This phone does not seem to have PWM, at least that bothers my eyes. The display is flickering at a rate that actually controls brightness. It'll flicker faster for brightness or slow that down to bring the brightness down. It's just how OLEDs work, and it really isn't an issue on this phone. Even on the 12 Pro Max it was good, but this time it's even harder to detect under 240 frames per second slow motion. So that's not something that really bothers me whatsoever. Well, another great thing is they've added ProMotion. ProMotion makes the phone super smooth, and just scrolling through menus and things are really smooth, no issues there. And some people are saying that it ramps down to maybe 90 hertz, and Apple does this to save power. I really haven't had an issue with it myself, and certain apps are still not using it. They'll need to enable that in settings, but it's not something that I would skip the phone because of. ProMotion is great. It's been great on the iPad, and now that it's on the iPhone, I'm sure it's here to stay. It's on the Pro models this year. Maybe next year they'll bring it to everything, but it's great to have a super smooth experience, whether that be in settings or music or something else. There's definitely a difference, although if you don't like it, you can turn it off if you want. Now, the next thing is the camera. That's worth upgrading for. I'm recording with it right now in ProRes. ProRes is something that's coming to the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max later on in a software update, or if you have the betas, you can get it a little bit early, but I'm recording in ProRes. It takes up a huge amount of storage, about 100 megabytes a second, and unfortunately, the one negative to it is the files are so large you only have AirDrop or the Lightning port to export this with. In my experience, it takes about an hour to export about 15 to 20 minutes of footage. So that's something that's a little bit disappointing. Maybe we'll see USB-C next year, but ProRes, you're seeing it right now, and this is actually the microphone from the back of the phone. I don't have any external microphones hooked up. This is just the audio you're hearing with the environment around it. I only bumped the volume so that it's within the correct levels. Otherwise, I haven't touched the audio in any way at all. So this is what it sounds like straight from the microphone itself. But the cameras are phenomenal, not only for video, but also for photography, whether that be you're taking ultra wide or regular photos or telephoto. They're just super clear with the new sensors. You have macro mode now, which I really like. You can use that in photo or video, and you can get up close to things. Although you will need a lot of light if you're getting very close so that it's not really grainy. But in general, these sensors make a big difference, not only for the video you're seeing here, but for photos and everything else. There's definitely a big jump from the previous version, whether that be stabilization with the sensor shift stabilization. While we did have that last year in the 12 Pro Max, this year we get it in the 13 Pro and Pro Max. So there's a big bump this year when it comes to cameras. So if it's something that matters to you, you'll see the difference. Apple has changed night mode, and it's not really enhancing the brightness as much as it was last year. It looks a little more natural if you've taken night photos with the new phones. So they've really enhanced that. That could be a combination of the processor and the cameras, but it definitely is better. Now, the forward-facing camera doesn't really get an upgrade this year as far as the sensor goes, but it can record in 4K 60 HDR and does have ProRes, as you can see here. So again, this is the same microphone straight out of the camera, and it's what it sounds like and looks like. Hopefully it's a little bit better than last year due to ProRes, but otherwise we really don't have an improvement there. Now you also get some photography modes that are on the 13 and 13 mini as well, but the photographic styles are really nice. You have the option to switch them between standard and vibrant or warm, or fully customize it yourself, and it bakes that into the photos. So those are really nice to have this year. And you also have a cinematic mode for video. So while you're using cinematic mode, it's only 1080p, but it does record in HDR, and it uses AI to know when you look away from it and then look back to change the focus. I showed the same video clip in my 13 Pro Max video, and it just gives you an idea of how it works overall. It's not something I would regularly use, but it's really nice to use that along with the AI sort of giving you a portrait mode video in real time. Now the battery is also improved. That's the third thing or reason to upgrade. The battery gets a little bit larger, and it does seem to be a little bit better. In my regular use, I'm going to bed with between 30 to 50% battery. On the 13 Pro Max, I would always have 50 to 70% battery. So it's quite good. In my use, if you go to my battery settings, you can see that my battery is between about 5 to 7 hours a day of screen on time and 10 hours of screen off time. That's with regular use, whether that be using a personal hotspot, recording with a camera. It just seems to easily get me through the day, and it will also charge at the same rate as last year. So if you have the 20-watt adapter, you're going to charge about 50% in 30 minutes with regular use. So it's pretty good. It's basically what you would expect. Of course, you've got MagSafe and more. If you want to use wireless charging, that's what I do. I put it on the charger every night, go to bed, wake up, take it off, and it lasts me through the day. If I'm in my car, I put it on a wireless charger. Other than that, it easily gets me through a day, no problem. And of course, I can bump that right up if I need to. So if you're coming from a 12 Pro Max to a 13 Pro Max, those are the reasons to upgrade. But if you're from an older phone, maybe you're on a 10R or an iPhone 6S, 6S Plus, this is a huge update. Not only for its design overall, so you have a more squared off design similar to an iPhone 4 or 5. It's a really nice design. It feels very premium. It's stainless steel and is just very solid. You've got ceramic shield on the front, so that's a big bump as well. So that actually seems to be pretty durable in my tests. Over a year of use with the 12 Pro Max, ceramic shield didn't scratch once other than from my mistake dropping it on a tripod. So it's held up incredibly well. It seems to be very durable, and I have no problems there whatsoever. But the overall squared off design really just makes it feel much more premium. So to me, it's a big upgrade. Some people don't like it, but it's a big upgrade as far as that goes. Also, you've got 5G. That's an update from the previous phones as well. You also have 5G in more countries with more bands this time around, but millimeter wave is still lacking in certain countries. But you do have that. You also have the capability of dual eSIM. So if you use an eSIM, you can use dual eSIM now this year. So it would be a big upgrade for you as well. And that might also be a reason to upgrade from, say, a 12 Pro to a 13 Pro. Now, the notch has been shrunk this year also. It's never been something that's bothered me personally, so I didn't mention it earlier. But if you've been waiting for it to shrink a little bit, then you may want to update now since it did get a little bit smaller. Now, the speakers are great as well. They have a really nice wide stereo sound. They go nice and loud and are nice and clear at the highest volumes. So take a listen to them. Now, one reason not to upgrade might be the price. Unless you can get a deal, this is a $1,000 phone. You have 4 different storage options. You have 128 gigabyte all the way up to 1 terabyte now, and you can go from about $1,000 to $1,500 if you don't have a deal. So that's just in the United States. Of course, prices vary depending where you are around the world, but the overall price may be a deterrent. But if you can get a deal where maybe you could get this free with a trade-in or get a huge trade-in from your previous phone, then I can recommend it that way. But it is quite an expensive phone, but it will be there for years. You can use it for years or trade it every year if you'd like. They seem to hold their value pretty well. Of course, the speed isn't something I really mention too much because it's just super fluid and fast. I've had no issues with slowdowns or anything like that. The A15 Bionic is great, whether you're recording ProRes video like this, you're playing a game, using augmented reality, or just doing regular day-to-day tasks. You're not going to notice a difference as far as the processor from last year to this year too much, but you will if you're coming from an older phone. Everything's super fast and fluid. That combined with ProMotion and then the better battery definitely makes it a bigger upgrade from previous years. So if that's something that matters to you, then of course I would recommend this phone. And so I would definitely recommend you upgrade if you're coming from an older phone. If you're wondering about this, you'll get updates for years to come with iOS 15, probably all the way to iOS 20 or 21, and of course you'll get all of the latest features and be good to go for years. Now, as far as what phone I'll use, I'll probably go with the 13 Pro Max just because I have such large hands and it's what I feel comfortable with. However, it's definitely a heavy phone, but the 13 Pro, I'm kind of up in the air about it. So I may continue to use this for a while. There's not really any compromises that I feel that's there other than maybe battery life and screen size. So either one is fine. I recommend either one. And if you're coming from an older phone, you'll be very happy to upgrade to a 13 Pro or Pro Max, or even a 13 or 13 Mini, whatever works best for you. But this year, there's no compromise. And if you want to use this camera for YouTube, this camera is incredible. Whether that be an HDR or 4K 30 ProRes like this or anything else, I highly recommend it. Let me know what you think about it, though, in the comments below. And if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.